All right. So apparently, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is dying. It's dead. It's finito. Right. This is a post that I found over on X by DB Sparking Zero. It says Dragon Ball Sparking Zero loses 90% of its players in less than a month. What's your thoughts on this, and why do you think it happened? This is by The Gamer. Only 10% of Dragon Ball Sparking Zero players remain, losing 90% in under 4 weeks. We'll read the comments in a second. Right, but I want to sort of show a comparison on Steam. This is as of recording right now. Actually, it's been about 5 minutes. Let me refresh the numbers. So right now, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, which means that probably a lot of the Americans are asleep. So these numbers will I would assume would probably go back up. But we're sitting about 8,319 on Steam, which is pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. Now, I've seen some of the complaints so far about the game. I'm a casual fighting game fan. I just love playing fighting games. But 180 plus characters is a lot of content just for a starter. I know a lot of them feel like duplicates to some people, or maybe a lot of people, but ultimately, it's kind of not just that. There's a ton of stages, lots of story mode, lots of things you can unlock. It kind of feels like how fighting games used to be. Right, where you just got it stacked with content. If we compare it to Tekken 8, Tekken 8 has 5,964, which has been marred with a lot of like controversy and whatnot, everything from banning that player to all the microtransaction stuff. Mortal Kombat 1, currently sitting at 937 as of the recording of this video. That's... Anyway, Guilty Gear, we are sitting on, let me just refresh, 3,467, and then of course lastly we have Street Fighter 6 at 21,306, which means that, like, and I'll see if I can no, that's just achievements. Can I click on stats? Is that gonna... No, it's not gonna do anything. So I mean, fighting games are a niche genre for a starter, right? They're always going to be a niche genre. You just can't get away from that, right? Maybe they were super big back in the day, but not as much. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero does harken back to a time when you got everything in the tin, all right? So, and there's a lot in there. Now, you'll read some of these complaints and thoughts and whatnot that we'll go into in a sec, but ultimately, it's a solid fighting game. There's a lot to do. If you're a Dragon Ball fan, you know, there's a lot to do. He says, I'm still enjoying it apart from the online disconnects. Once that's fixed for me, it's all good. It says here 90% of Steam players, people keep ignoring that part. Well, obviously, like, there would also be a drop in console players as well. It's just that Steam, we can actually track, like, accurately, right? So, and because Steam is the biggest, I think it's the biggest gaming platform in the world, even compared to sign-ups like an accounts on console. I think it's the biggest, right? It's a good metric to see, like, you know, a pulse of like an exact number of like where a player base is. Because it's not like Budokai Tenkaichi 3, the game is good, but there is something missing in the game, right? 182 characters, all of them play the same bar ultimate moves, nothing different about the individual characters. Nor did you feel like you were playing anyone tactical. I tried to say this in a video and people came to cancel me. Huh. Sounds like me with Mortal Kombat 1, bro. Speak up and the masses hate you for it until the truth is revealed. Should have made it more like Xenoverse and it would have been top. 90% of Steam players. And again, it's a metric to go by. We can't get accurate numbers. I don't think... Can we get accurate numbers on console? I don't think we can we? Is there a way to check... Guys, is there a way to check on console to see the exact amount of people that are playing a particular game? Let me know. A lot of people play games for single player only. Or offline. You know, just like, yeah, well, I mean, I guess that includes offline. I guess what I was thinking there is like, you know, like story single player offline, rather than just sitting there in a ladder and playing, you know, but whatever. It's only fun once in a while, and online is not fun anymore because people play more than one game. It's not COD or NBA 2K. True. So, yeah, like, and we see this in the MMO space, that while there might be a ton of MMOs out there, you might go to one MMO and might have like 10,000 people, and you might be like, ooh, that's not looking so good compared to like the millions that say Final Fantasy have, or is Guild Wars 2 hit that? I think it has, hasn't it? Pretty sure. And definitely like Final Fantasy and World of Warcraft. Yeah, of course those numbers look really tiny, but it doesn't mean to say that there's no population, right? It's simple, really. Shitty online players and not enough offline game modes to keep people playing. What idiot game devs need to understand is that online isn't some magical band-aid that covers up issues. If your game is barren with content, has rage quitters, and provides no reason to keep picking up the game and playing for an extended period of time, nobody's going to come back. So, when I read that, I again think of Mortal Kombat 1, right? We all finished the content. From a competitive perspective, the game is unbalanced, which is OGs, for OGs, which is great, and I personally love it. This right here is a wonderful sentiment, and I think all fighting games should go back to it. Just have some fun, right? Just make these characters, like some characters OP, some maybe under P, right? But give them some tool set that allows them to like work around that weakness, and make them fun again, not curating to esports, right? So the fact that they have done that, I think, is actually a blessing in disguise. And more fighting games should be like that. Because esports should be an afterthought, right? It's a very few amount of people that go, very few amount of people that watch. It is not the thing that actually makes the games sell. So stop curating this shit to a tiny subset of the population in the fighting game community. Sadly, any big competitive game is balanced at least quarterly with patches shifting metas, which is something we most likely won't get in this game. And again, that's actually not a bad thing. Unless there's something like completely broken, right? Like completely broken, I understand. But like nitpicking and shit, like because you want to be an esports hero, I don't really give a fuck about that. The still shots for 90% of the campaign turned a lot of people away, since it was probably their first time playing an anime game while they're used to a AAA cutscenes. Yeah. That could be true. Other than fighting with your friends or solo queuing ranked, there's not much to do once you beat the campaign, alt timelines, and custom battles. Lack of content equals lack of player base. Well, that kind of sounds like a lot. Right. That kind of sounds like a lot, but anyway. I could keep going, but I love the franchise, so I'll be on for every DLC and season start. But hopefully they add more, since the combat is top tier out of any Dragon Ball Z fighting game. Yep. So, anyway, let's keep going. I mean, look, again, this is the thing, right? This is the problem with Mortal Kombat, is they try to keep catering to different demographics instead of Mortal Kombat fans. Like actual Mortal Kombat fans. Right? If your fighting game ends up in an Evo or some ridiculous shit like that, fine. Whatever. Make a tournament out of it. Just go with the flow. But until then, the masses are the ones that determine whether or not your product is successful. You need to market the game to them. I believe that Dragon Ball has marketed to them. Right? But we do live in a day and age where you get a lot of people like, well, the only thing I want to do in this game is play online. If the online experience isn't great, then it tarnishes the rest of the product for them. Missing the forest for the trees. Like, there's just... You know what I mean? It's like, listen, I understand people like playing online, but you are playing in the modern day where you're going to get a lot more issues than we used to back in the day. A lot more cheating going on now, you know, stuff like that. And while it shouldn't happen, are you not able to enjoy the rest of the game without online? Right? It's just not a finished product. It fails to capture the fun party experience and fails to be a competitive game. The attacks lack impact and unmemorable. Not what-if transformations or fusions. No hero characters. Limited stage destruction, limited maps, and more. It has no content, repetitive, because it's a niche game with not much to it. Well, I mean, Dragon Ball as a franchise is not a niche household name. But as a fighting game, yeah, I suppose, yeah. But it's been highly popular. I mean, look at the sales it did. Right? But like any game out there, you are going to get fatigue. You are going to get burnt out. And that doesn't mean to say that the game is bad. It just means that you've hit the end of your rope. It doesn't matter how much you love something, eventually you're going to be like, nah, I've had enough. Right? Just need a break. Right? It's like sex. You could have sex every day, all day. After a week, you're going to be like, listen, man, I need a fucking nap. I just need a nap. Just, you know, lady, just stop touching it. Just give me a day. Let's rejuvenate. Not enough characters. Not enough maps. No, maps don't blow up or show explosions from space. Is this a troll post? Folks rage quitting unpunished. I love this shit. I love it when, like, you know, people want retaliation and punishment for you just leaving a game. It's a fucking video game. They can do whatever they want. Right? No one gives a shit. Right? If they're getting their ass beat, why should they just stick around so you can finish the job? Like, seriously, I know it's a hot take, but I just don't give a shit. You fucking pay for the game. If you want to leave, then leave. I'm not talking about plugging, right? I'm just simply seeing people, they just quit. Right? They're just like, nah, I can't win this. I'm not in the mood. Baby's crying. Got to feed the dog. Wank. Whatever. Like, not wank with the dog. Don't be dirty. So, you know, they just leave. Who gives a fuck, man? Right? It's that sort of attitude, which is why I think the fighting game community, some of the people in it, are just laughable. They take this shit way too serious. They beat it. It's an anime fighting game. It's not the game's fault. It's the players. If everyone would just play who they want and enjoy the game, it would be a lot better. Maybe someone can expand on that. Is that because people are only choosing characters like what we see in other sort of modern fighting games where they only choose the greatest and most powerful? You know, and they're not just playing whatever they want to play? God, fuck, I miss the old days of fighting games. Why is this a big deal? This happens to most games. True. It's a little stale right now, needs an update, but this game doesn't need a constant player base. It's the type of game you come back to play and relax, and this is only for Steam. Correct. Bad multiplayer design, online exploits, boring repetitive gameplay, and bad approach to player retention. Something like Budokai 3 Story Mode would have served a good purpose here, and more frequently updating the game via seasonal player retention approach would do it justice. I think, like, patching the game... Like, didn't Street Fighter 6 go forever before they actually did their first patch? And it was still the top played fighting game, at least on Steam. What does that tell you? Right? What does that tell you? Unfortunately, the reality is that Sparking Zero is kind of inferior to Budokai 3. I think that's Tenkaichi 3, yep. Was the better game. It felt more complete. Sparking Zero is even lacking a bunch of outfits and modes, and the game mechanics were solid. I cannot say the same for Sparking Zero, especially when it comes to game mechanics. I mean, I loaded up Budokai Tenkaichi 3 like a few weeks ago to give it a go before Sparking Zero came out. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt that, like, no doubt, the Sparking Zero definitely plays smoother. I don't know too much about Dragon Ball franchise. I have been learning through help from friends, but it plays fine. Like, it feels smooth, right? After image spam, instant sparking spam, ranked having no rage quit penalty, and not giving the person who stays the points. Well, I think that's the only thing. I fucking hate this shit in games where they penalize you for either leaving, or what if your internet drops out? You get penalized for that too. There should be no penalty for leaving unless you're plugging, right? However, though, I do agree with the part about keeping the points. If the other person leaves, then just keep the points. There is this weird fetish that these fucking idiots have. They're like, I need to prove myself. I will beat you. You better stay. If it's obvious after, like, however long, like, you know, standard fighting game, it's like they absolutely wipe the floor with you. First round, second half of the second round. It's like, come on, man. Some people, they just don't want to deal with it. And they just leave. Right? They just leave. Who gives a shit? Right? That's just ego talking there. They need that ego, you know, getting a rub out. Why don't they take the consideration of removing Wii's from avoiding everything, plus the matchmaking time takes too long? Yes, it's fine that they want to follow the canon with this, but it can only be done in battle, not the competitive one, and it's also being filled with, I don't know, did he add on to that? Yep, hackers, they should fix everything. That, and I assure you, with all of these players will return. Even the dogs are upset, man, right? I don't think it's dying. I think it's just like standard for... I think it's standard for normal fighting games and games in general. Anyway guys, catch you next time.